All right. I sent you some videos. Did you get them?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Did you get a chance to just review them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw all of them except for the last one.
So prong
The one with the prong.
Okay, yes, not a problem. So let's go ahead and, is this already powered on?
Yes. Or, I don't know,
It's
charged.
charged,
Okay.
and that's as good as.
Yeah, so go ahead and turn this on. Can you press and hold? We should see the blue light turn on when you get around. There it is. So that's on. Okay, and then go ahead and press and hold on your side button here. And then it'll turn this on. Okay? And then hit this pager function. This one right there. It's just a vibrate. Okay? So whenever you turn your collar on and off, I always suggest that you can hit the pager function to double check. Because sometimes they'll forget that, turn it off or whatever, so it's just like an added thing. Okay? And the one that I sent you has like red dots.
Yeah.
They discontinued that model. This is the new model, so I have to make an updated video. So
Okay.
yours turns on by a button as opposed to the red dots. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
So here, have you tried fitting her to this?
Not yet.
Okay. So
But I
here,
did see in the video, this goes on like either one.
yeah, any
One
pocket
jaw.
like that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull up that prong to the top of the neck, and then we're gonna place that under, to behind it.
So we'll do like about here.
Correct. And fit as snug as possible.
She's got like a fat neck. Keep going, you think?
I think that's fine. Once we start working with her, we can.
I mean, I can get a couple fingers under there.
So we don't go by the strap, we go by the probes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it does look snug enough right there. If you ever put it on her and you see it kind of swiveling from side to side, too loose for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then we just bring that up through to the,
Okay, you gotta.
Oh, a weird side note, her tail is really bothering me for whatever reason, so I just thought I'd let you know.
how so?
It's just, it seems painful to her, so
I touched it
Touch
today
it.
and she screamed, yeah.
very strange, so just heads up. Now that it looks normal, and then she yelped, so I don't know.
How many times has that happened?
It happened like a couple weeks ago, and then apparently today when I wasn't there.
Was this at home?
Yeah.
Maybe just caught her off guard. I mean, because she shook right now and it
Yeah.
It's
whipped,
very,
no problem.
yeah, it's very strange.
She might just be a little touch sensitive. Okay,
Anyway, yeah.
we'll just keep an eye on it. Let's go ahead and grab our remote. And any questions before we get started?
No.
All right. So here, and I'll give you some, in case you go out and you have run leash and stuff, just a couple of things you can do in the meantime to kind of manage the reactivity. But until we actually teach the active field again, it's going to be just management, okay?
Okay.
Which hopefully we can start that next class, and things should be a little bit warmer at least. Okay?
Yeah.
Because at some point we have to walk in the cold. Right?
Yeah.
So here, what we're going to teach, this is really just to get you used to the remote, how it works, how it turns on and how it turns off, especially for her, because she's not meant to have her muscle contracted, okay? So what are we currently set at here?
42.
Whoa, let's go and bring that down.
Why is it so high?
It's
Excuse me,
just
maybe-
turned on the first time.
Do we go to 1 or
Let's go down to 10.
10?
There we go, okay? And if I tell you 15 or 20, if I say 15, you land 14, 16, whatever, it's perfectly fine, general range. If I say 15, you land on like 25, 30, it's a pretty big jump, okay?
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna find that working level that I talked about in the video. I think I called it operating level in the video.
Yeah.
So we have connection, perception, and working. Connection is simply when you see the muscle twitching, but she's not fazed by it.
Okay.
Perception would see the muscle twitch and then like a little bit of like a movement from her. And then working level would be like, whoa, what was that? Okay, and we always want to find that, whoa, what was that number? Because that's what's going to make it functional, okay? People tend to operate too low. So like I just did a consultation with someone who worked with another trainer. Their dog is very reactive. A couple of problems. One, the collar fitted to the dog was meant for a 35-pound dog. They have a 90-pound dog. Two, they were working at levels of like 8, okay, out of 100. We're
Yeah.
a very particular model. And it didn't work clearly because that's why they were talking to me about training, because their dog was still struggling with leash reactivity, okay?
Yeah.
So here, the theory is as low as possible, but as high as needed, okay? So in this setting, it might be really low because we're in an empty room. Outside, when we're on a walk, it might be a bit higher because we're outside, a lot more stimuli, and it might be even higher when we see other dogs, okay? So you're constantly just kind of going with the, what's going on within the environment. It's really logical. Once you start the process, it's really just like common sense, and you would learn to recognize, like, oh, when I see dogs, she's usually around 55, and just jump to 55. Oh, we're past the dogs, and we're at Olive Park, she's usually around 30 Olive Park. You'll just naturally just start going up and down according to what context you're in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So what we're gonna do here is when I say the word tap, you're gonna keep the leash just how you have it,
Okay.
and we're gonna test her levels, okay? So tap.
And I'm tapping.
Should I
Knee
sit
bump, knee
down?
bump.
This
You have a
one?
seat, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I distract her.
And tap,
This one?
the bumpy one, correct. Tap, tap, tap. Okay, so I think I saw a twitch, not much of a response. It's what, 15? Tap. Yeah, you see that?
Yeah.
That moment. So we're gonna look at her. Keep looking at her. And it's okay, turn a little bit. Relax a little bit. Good. Turn to face her. Right? Yep. Yep. Right. Let's try 18.
She's like,
Oh.
It's okay. And tap. Wait, all right, right there. So you see how she moved in response to that,
Yeah.
right? So at 10, it was kind of like, what was that? At 15, it was a little more like, oh, okay, what was that? And at 18, I was like, whoa, what was that, right?
yeah.
Again, we want that, whoa, what was that number?
Yeah.
So she will tell you what's too high and what's too low. Okay, as you do this more, you'll be able to read her better. Okay, and of course I'll explain things to you.
Mhm.
But the reason for that big movement, especially because we're going to be dealing with reactivity, because you have to think like that. Okay, people usually think by like, well, the dog's not doing anything. I'm like, I understand that, but the dog could do something, and that's what we're training around. Okay, is if you're too low on the collar, it's not going to mean anything. Okay, we need concern. Concern makes it important. Okay, because if it's not important, she's not going to do it. So the things that worry us are important things, right? I have a very large rent that I have to pay month by month, and bills and employees and stuff like that. So when all this crap happened in 2020, I really had to grind hard and like work in order to keep things going because it was important to me. If it wasn't important to me, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna worry about it, right?
Mhm.
So same thing for the dog, but for dogs, to make something important, there has to be some kind of physical aversive because they are, of course, physical animals, right? They bite each other. So here, she's going to tell us what's too much and what's too little.
Mhm.
As we progress and she gets more tuned into it, you might find that number changes. Okay, because right now this is completely out of nowhere for her. So if we get a yip, don't worry. Don't try to console. Be just neutral. Because if she yips and you go, oh my God, I'm sorry, you're telling her you should respond this way. Okay, so think of it as a kid on the bike. Kid falls off the bike. You make a big deal, we raise drama king, drama queen, right? Or you go, hey, are you okay? Dust yourself off, get back up, back on the bike you go, right? You teach a kid how to recover, okay? So I understand where people are coming from, but she doesn't understand the energy of consoling.
Mhm.
She just thinks that if she has an overreaction and you pet her or try to console her, she's thinking, oh, I'm supposed to act like this when this happens, okay?
Yeah.
All we'll end up doing is, of course, adjusting our number, okay? Questions?
No.
So we're going to start with a very simple exercise, of course, that you can do indoors. All it requires is you have something to create a perimeter. Here we have a placemat. You can use a dog bed, you can use a towel, you can use a blanket, anything that would have a perimeter, okay? An ottoman, a piece of, I don't know, if there was like carpet or whatever, anything that has a set space, right? So there's here, and then there's the floor, okay? So we're going to start about a foot away first, about 1 square away. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to coach you through this. When I say tap, it's going to be one press of the button.
Okay.
And what we're going to do first is we're going to tap 2 to 3 times. Okay, we're going to see what she does. If she's looking confused, we're going to keep tapping, and then we're going to add directional pressure using the leash. Okay. Once all 4 paws are on, we're going to stop with everything. Okay. she's most likely gonna try to come off. If that happens, we're gonna start tapping again, and then add in a bit more counter leash pressure, guide her back on, she stays put for a moment or two, we're gonna say the word break, and then we're gonna move backwards, okay? The movement backwards is to give her something to attach to guide her off, okay? Break is gonna be the, or you might have one from previous training.
No,
Okay.
but I've actually watched Maddie's videos, so I've seen her say break to her dogs.
Okay, so break is the universal cue of your job is done. So if she's in a sit, a down, a place, a heel, whatever, break means, okay, now you're free to go do what you need to do, okay?
Yeah.
So, go ahead and just pull her a little bit off here. There, pull, pull, pull. There we go, good girl. And we're gonna wait a moment, and tip, tip, there we go. So wait. See what she does, good. And now you're gonna say the word break,
Break.
and back. Very good, we're gonna repeat that 4 more times, okay? She's a nervous little one.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
a nervous Nelly. That leash is not a overstatement.
Tip,
I mean, yeah, she's
Yep.
she's scared.
tip. Now use your leash to guide this way. Tip, tip, and then relax. Counter, tap, and relax. Wait a moment. Okay, good. Go ahead and take a step back, hold right there. Wait a moment. Break,
Break.
and back. Good, we're gonna try it 3 more times.
Okay.
Tap. Now pull, tap. 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 Good, wait a moment. Counter, tap. Tap. Good, wait a moment. Then take just a couple steps back. Good. So the reason why I'm having you do that is because I don't want your presence to be what keeps her there. I want that gap so she has the ability to step off. Okay? Break.
Break.
Good. 2 more.
You could
Should've
pull that
brought-
string out
should've
and
brought
put your
her shorter
hand through the
leash.
loop if you want. Yeah, take that poo bag thing out of
Pull. Okay. Good. Wait a moment. Good. Wait. Let her settle. Break.
Break.
Good. 1 more. Tap. Tap. A little bit of a pull. Tap. And wait. Let her slow relax your arm a little bit. Good. Excellent. So we're gonna pause real quick. What we're gonna do now is, can I show you something with the leash?
Oh, yep.
Go ahead and take off, we're gonna take off the poop bag?
Yeah, I was.
You can do that. And I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna show you the trainer hold, okay? Leash, you're using your left hand.
Mhm.
Leash around your left thumb, like this, okay? This secures your leash. So if like, for whatever reason, if she were to lunge, she's not gonna rip that out of your hand, okay? If we hold like this can happen. If we do this actually just recently happened to someone, a friend of mine's friend, break fingers. And then there was another one, there's this, and wrap.
Yeah, I have a fourth leash.
There's like another one, I forget. There's like 3 things that can, if you do it the wrong way, but this secures your leash. And then what we do here is you're gonna take your leash over your pointer finger and just clasp down.
Just fold it.
Okay, so this actually acts as a secondary. Tap, 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 tap. Good. Wait a moment. It's here. This is actually another form of a lock. Okay, all I'm doing is wrapping around my pointer finger there
Mm-hmm.
and clasping down. So what we do is like, it's like a secondary lock, if you will. And if you need to choke up, you just choke up like this. So this way you're not wrapped up
Yeah.
with a bunch of leash in your hand. Okay?
Okay. Like that.
Over your pointer finger
Pointer like that.
and then clasp down like that. Okay? So then if you need to adjust the length, you just pull that, relax your hand and pull that through and it'll shorten up your leash. Yeah. As you get used to it, you just adjust, no problem.
Okay.
You're just gonna go ahead and break.
Break.
So now we're gonna do same concept, but I'm gonna have you start moving around the mat. Okay, so you're still gonna be about a foot away, but you're gonna be sending from different directions.
Okay.
And tap, and so lock your leash, because you want to keep it short. So the closer you are to here, or here, I'm sorry, the more immediate leverage you have.
Okay.
All right, so go ahead and do the wrap real quick.
This.
Run your pointer, and then around, tap, good. Now tap and pull, tap, right. So if we remember at the park, right, with the reactivity, the first thing I did was adjust the leash or whatever we had, and I choked up, right? Because the more leash you give, the more you have to pull to get tension. The closer you are to here, the more immediate that tension's gonna kick in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, break.
Break.
Yeah, one more. Tap. 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 Good. Wait a moment. Break.
Break.
Good. 3 more. Tap. Tap. Yep. Good. Wait a moment. Better. Break.
Break.
Good. 2 more. There you go. Good. Right, good. 1 more.
I think she'll jump off
Break.
and tell her quick.
Break.
Good.
Yeah, she's like, what is this?
There we go. We're at what number right now?
18.
Let's go to 23. I'm seeing something. Are you?
She kind of still looking around. Like she's not going to the mat right away.
Okay, what else?
Maybe it's she doesn't mind it.
Yeah, she's getting more
used to it.
comfortable. Right? So in the beginning, she was more nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when people see that, so e-collar is not making your dog more nervous, right? Your leash already says nervous.
Yeah.
Nervous is a stress response, right? We can get scared, we can become nervous, we can become anxious, right? And I think with people nowadays, the most common stress response is anxiety, right? So here, that is a stressor, right? That is the discomfort. So if she's a nervous dog, if we apply a stressor, we're going to see nervousness. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But this is controlled context. So this is how we can actually build confidence using an aversive. Okay, so e-collar and prong collar, they get a lot of they have a lot of bad reputation because of the perception, right? Is the biggest thing is perception. Oh, you're shocking your dog. Oh, that spiky thing, right?
Yeah.
But we're starting subtly. I didn't say put on 100, right? We have 127 levels and we started at 10 to 15 or 13 to 15, then to 18, now we just went to 23 because I can already see she's getting more comfortable, right? And what is she doing now?
Sleeping.
Relaxing, yeah, right? So the way we build confidence through pressure, okay? Me in where I'm at in my career, you're looking at me 10 years into my career, okay? I did not start with the facility. I started as a kid who handed out a few business cards, got a client, and then built from there, right? If I would have started here 10 years ago, I would have not any of the skills I needed, nor the ability to handle the stresses that come with this, right? Now I got like 8 employees, big rent, bills, right, all that stuff. But I worked my way up to it, and during these past 10 years, there's been a lot of different stressors that have involved my business. But I learned how to handle them. So I grew to this point. Does that make sense? So here, when people get a nervous, anxious, fearful dog, they tend to shy away from stressors. Right? Now, yes, if you're not doing it correctly, you're just putting the dog under stress and you're not helping.
Like avoiding
Okay?
it.
Right.
Yeah.
So here, we have a means of guiding her through it, right? So what we're doing is we're putting pressure on. She's getting nervous. What do? And with that prong, which is gently but firmly going, go here. And you're tapping, and she's like, well, I don't know what to do. She's like, I'm getting really nervous. And I just go here. Finally, she goes with it, and pressure disappears. And she goes, oh, when I feel this, if I do this, it goes away, right? So we kept doing that, and we've done a total of 10 reps. And the last 3 or so, I could see she was getting more comfortable, right? Because she was going, even though she was taking a little bit, she wasn't as nervy as she was the first time. Because now she's starting to understand the communication. We're starting to build a concept. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you want her is the goal to always have her like respond very quickly, like not like be that like nervousness?
Ideally, yes, right? Now remember, we can't make your dog unnervous. She's a nervous dog.
Right.
What we're going to do is teach her how to handle nervousness better, and and I'm going to teach you how to guide her through it. Okay? So when people see nervousness, they want to again lay off. Oh, I'm sorry, like am I hurting you? Blah blah blah. And I go, keep going, right? Teach the dog what they're supposed to do. So there was something that you just said right now I was going to comment on.
Do we always want to see that?
Oh, the quick response.
Yeah.
So the quick response is important because if there's any kind of delay, ideally what we're looking for is tap, boom, right?
Okay.
That immediate send. Okay, that's what we're looking for always, ideally. Now, the reason for that is because we're dealing with, well, one, if I want reliable obedience, it has to be that way. Because let's say the recall. Recall is like the most important command. It can be life or death, right? If your dog's running towards the street, if they don't turn on a dime, they're going to be in the street very quickly, right? Is people give dogs too much opportunity to avoid the pressure. I use every opportunity to layer in the pressure. The only way the dog can avoid it is by moving like this. So if I say come, boom, right, it's going to be immediate because we have a total of 6 family pet commands. Sit, stay, down, come, place, heel. Those 6 commands are meant to be functional in the everyday world to allow you to live your life with your dog, okay? If sit, down, stay, place, and heel, we give a delay, right? But we want the recall to be sharp. It doesn't work that way. Everything has to be sharp, right? Otherwise, one day she's like, oh, sure. She's like, you want me to come really fast, but everything else is slow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Everything has to be quick. So, but that's over time.
Yeah.
That's with practice. Here, I'm not worried about the speed. What I am worried about or concerned with is ease of response, right? I don't want to have to fight the dog to get the dog on the place. E-collar should never feel like an argument. It should always be fairly straightforward. Now, do I get dogs like that? Yes, I have one right now who is crazy resistant. He bit the wife in the head.
Oh.
He attacked the dog at the front door. He went after some kids. Like, this dog is serious business, right?
Yeah.
And he's super defiant, okay?
Yeah.
It took me 3 classes to finally break him in, and I had to go to 115 on the collar. And then ever since then, it's been a gradual progress. Not the fastest progress, but it's been lots of progress. And the owners were like, man, Jesse, like ever since that third day, that third visit, man, like that was the one, right?
Yeah.
Because but that's what makes me an effective and efficient trainer, is I'm willing to go to places other people don't want to. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah.
Because here, if I can get the dog to be compliant on 18, no matter the setting, right, 18. That's just common sense. But if the dog is not responding, and I'm going up and up and up and up and up and up, and I end up in a 115 or whatever, that's what I'm going to do. But
Yeah.
people tend to let those things hold them back, and that's how we don't make progress.
Yeah.
Right? That's all I'm saying. I was like, I can only take you as far as you're willing to go.
Yeah.
But ideally, it should be pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Questions so far about this?
No, we kind of talked about that where it's like, man, are we like, is this gonna be like too intense for her? Or I don't know what the exact words were, but you kind of said it as like, you can take it as far as you go, but like, some people probably feel like nervous about, like they think they're hurting the dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why we operate the way we operate, because I'm dealing with 2 animals here, I got you and I got the dog. That's easy for me. Because dogs don't have emotional attachments and stuff like humans do, right?
Yeah.
You do. Plus you're logical,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if I'm like, yeah, you need 95 to get your dog to behave, you're thinking, man, that's 3/4 of the power. Does my dog really need that? Right? And then you start to doubt all that other stuff.
Sure.
So like, I had a client, it took me to the 4th class to finally stop the reactivity.
Mm-hmm.
But we did everything. We started low, we were all over the place, right? And then finally I was like, on 4th class, I'm like, all right, I'm like, it was clear that the life was not getting better. So I said 127. So I was like, we're gonna just do 127, right? And boom, right away, super effective.
Yeah.
I didn't see her for 2 to 3 weeks because she had to travel. She came back and I'm like, how's it been? And we were at Ellis Park at that point. She's like, Jesse, she's like, different dog. Different dog. She's like, I barely have to touch the collar now.
Oh, wow.
Right? But in her mind, because we did do everything, she was validated.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's not like I came in at 127 right off the bat. Because even I have to see, like, what's going to work for this dog. But
Yeah.
sometimes it comes to that solution.
Mm-hmm.
But it helps the owner feel better, knowing like, oh, we did do low and all that stuff. Like, we tried a lot of stuff and it just wasn't working.
Right.
This worked, okay?
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and issue that word break. And we're gonna start sending it from a little bit of a further
Why
distance.
she's trembling.
Because she wants to move.
Hold on.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, so did you hear her whining?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she relaxed, but then the brain was becoming unsettled and wanted to move, and she technically can't move because pressure's gonna kick in.
Yeah.
So then the brain goes into conflict.
Break.
Okay? And I'm gonna have you send about 2 to 3 squares back. Same process, okay?
Like this.
Yep.
23.
Yep. Yep. Break.
Break. Break.
Pull, pull, pull. Pull,
Break.
pull, 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 pull. Yeah, girl. Yeah.
When she's breaking, no.
No tap.
Yeah.
So the reason why she's resisting is because we're putting pressure,
Yeah.
right? Because we're putting pressure to go there. So then she's like, well, I know you're gonna send me back, so
Yeah.
why even bother getting off?
Right.
Tip. Right. Perfect. And break.
Break. Break.
Yeah, girl. Good. Tap. Tap. Pull. Yeah, girl. Good. Tap. Good. Good. Break.
Break.
Good. 2 more.
Good job.
Right. Right.
Break.
1 more. Good.
Break.
Good. What I'm gonna have you do here is, what would you like to call this?
This.
Place or go to bed?
Honestly, I've been saying go to bed.
Okay, so we're gonna use go to bed, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, what, you can say fridge for all I care. It's just, so now you have a phrase to cue her, right? So before, the reason why we're doing pressure first is I wanna make it very clear that it's the e-collar getting her to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, let's say you would have said go to bed and she ran straight there. Like, that's great, but it didn't allow us to use the e-collar. Okay, so
Right.
we kick in the pressure first, and on those last few, you can see 1 tap, boom, shush is going, right? So now we want to layer in the tap with the phrase, okay? So we start to sync things together. So like, I get plenty of dogs that were trained already using food or prong or whatever, and the owner complains that the dog doesn't listen, right? Because the aversive or the reward is not enough to make the dog listen. And as soon as we start e-collar and we find that working level, guess what happens? Dog magically remembers everything, right? Because now we have a tool that can make it concerning enough for the dog's like, oh yeah, I remember sit, right? Oh, I remember down, I remember the place, because of that, right?
Yeah.
So here, we were using pressure, making it very clear that pressure was getting her to go there. Now that we've taught that, now we're gonna cue the phrase first, go to bed, and then kick in with the tapping, okay? So during this part, we're gonna come to a stop, and we're gonna wait for a second or two. If she starts to go on her own, I'm gonna have you restrain her with a little bit of leash pressure. No tap, just leash pressure, okay? And then you're gonna relax. If she tries to go again, you're gonna restrain with leash pressure. And then relax. We need her to hold beside you with no tension. Then you're gonna say the phrase, go to bed, and then tap, okay? If you say go to bed and she shoots there, you can avoid the tap, but it has to be quick. Go to bed, boom. Okay, not go to bed,
Yeah.
boom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go to bed, tap. But if she beats that tiny little window, then we don't layer in the pressure. Okay, so we're teaching her, if I say something and you go immediately, you avoid the tap.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah. Is there an importance to have a difference between go to bed and place? Is there any importance to
Nope.
that? Okay.
I mean, the only way there would be an importance is like, let's say you had 3 beds in the same space and they were all go to bed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, to differentiate, we would have to use like body language to direct the dog to which one.
Okay.
Or you could say go to bed, place, mat, right? And then have a different word for each one, but it really doesn't matter.
Got it.
Okay, so you can have 3 things that are taught as go to bed. It could be maybe a towel that you keep in your car for when you go somewhere, a bed in the living room, and maybe like a bed in the bedroom.
So multiple things can be.
Correct, because she's going to define it by the context.
Okay.
If you're in the living room and you say go to bed, she's going to go to that one.
Got it.
She most likely would not go to the one in the bedroom.
Right.
But if you're in the bedroom, you say go to bed, she's going to go to the one within that room.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
Questions?
No.
Break.
Break.
No.
Go to bed.
Right. Break.
Break.
I just want to say it one time.
Yes, always one time. One time and make it happen.
Yeah.
Go to bed.
Good. Break.
Break. Go to bed.
Good. Break.
Break.
We're gonna do 2 more.
Do you see that a lot where they try to like circle and
It's
circle?
her nervousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to bed.
Good. Break.
Break.
One more.
Is our tones really important with the go to bed?
The tone that she's using is good
Okay.
because the e-collar does the rest of the work. I know people tend to like go to bed, right? Like those lower voice.
That's what I was always taught. Like,
Yeah, I mean that's old school thinking.
I know.
But e-collar can whisper and it can yell,
Okay.
right? So if I'm like heel, right, down, and it's on 60, like that's doing all the yelling, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
my tone of voice is always the same.
Okay.
You won't hear me get deep or anything like that because of that tool.
Got it.
Okay?
I like that.
Go to bed.
Perfect. Now here, what I'm gonna have you do is keep the leash in your hand
Mm-hmm.
and go ahead and have a seat to hold on to the leash. Good. So we have 2 aspects to this command. We have the send, which is what we're working on now, and then we have the don't move, or the stay aspect, okay? So here, what we're working on was the send, and now we're transitioning briefly to the don't move, okay? The sending aspect of it, if we each did a session a day, 3 to 5 minutes, super short, okay? And what we're trying to do is kind of get where we're getting here. Tap, boom, pretty quick, until eventually it's like, go to bed, boom, go to bed, boom, go to bed, boom, right? Just very quick, very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Not sometimes she goes and sometimes she's, kind of stubborn. We need consistency. And that's the problem, is that I think people, again, they get the dog too much gray area,
Yeah.
right? Go to bed. Come on. Come on, go to bed. Go to bed. Good girl, right? Big old gap. And it creates unreliable training. Okay, it also means the dog doesn't care about what you say.
Right.
Okay, so right now, go to bed, tap, boom, right? That's good. That's her going like, man, my mom says something, better do it, right? Because then if I get there faster, the tap goes way faster. So I'm actually empowering your tone of voice through the pressure. Okay, so for me growing up, don't do that. Only meant don't do that until the first time I got spanked. Then don't do that had a totally different meaning.
Yeah.
Right? It empowered what my parents said. So then I had to like start thinking like the double thinking things, right? I really want to do this. So here, we're not having to be mean, right? We're not being mean, we're not being forceful or anything like that. She's picking and choosing the levels. And of course, because I'm a trainer, 18 was good, but I wanted a little bit more speed. So that's why we went to 23, okay? And on 23, we're getting pretty much, for the most part, just single taps, and she's very direct. Because I saw that she had a good concept, and all I needed was a little bit more speed, so I was like, a little bit more like that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So here, when it comes to the stay aspect, one of the biggest mistakes people make is they repeat the command. When you repeat the command, you reset. Okay, so what that means is if you say go to bed, she goes, and 10 minutes later she's like trying to sneak off, and you go to bed, and she goes back again. You've reset the command. You've not taught her to not get off. Okay, because she did what you said. You said go to bed, she went back. That's what go to bed means, right? But when she snuck off, what we really should have done is tapped, and that would have been, that says, don't do that.
Right.
Okay, so when I say go to bed, you stay there, so I give you permission. So earlier when you first started, you saw she kept overshooting,
Yeah.
right? She kept scattering, and I was like counter tap, right? As you're teaching her, when you go here, everything disappears. If you step off with no warning, pressure's gonna kick on. Okay, and the important part is no warning. People wanna warn. People wanna give opportunity to avoid the consequence. Dogs don't learn that way. Dogs learn best by attempting what they wanna do, and there being an aversive applied. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so like a child, you can tell a child, you know, don't take things that are not yours because you'll go to jail. And they can take that and process it and learn that, okay, like I don't take things that are not mine because I don't want to go to jail.
Right.
Dogs don't do that. She would have to take something and then be given a consequence for taking that object to learn you don't take that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here, when we practice this, or when you practice this, you're going to have the single component of practicing the sense. And then when you see, you can say go to bed, boom, she just goes there consistently and quickly, then we don't need to practice that anymore. We have already achieved that, okay? Then I just focus on the application of don't move, okay? Now the reason why I'm teaching you this, of course, is to give you something to work on indoors, okay? Now the practical applications of this would be like if you went to a friend's house and you wanted to just behave yourself, you can have it contained. Once we get over your activity stuff and all that, and your confidence starts to go up, potentially taking her out to a restaurant with you. 3, when guests come over, if she like really loves people, or maybe she gets territorial and barky, we have a place to contain her. Now there's more than one option for that. This is one of those options, okay? This is what we would call preventative control if you did apply it in that context. So, how's she with people that come over?
It depends on the person. Usually, she gets low, she growls.
Okay, unsure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, let's pretend for the sake of example, she would bark at the person coming in, right? Or let's say no, let's say she jumps on them because she's excited. The jumping, of course, is not the problem. The excitement is, right? So really, we need to address that. This would be what we call preventative control. Okay. If at 5:30 my guest is coming over, 5 o'clock she's already here. So then, if she's here and she can't move, how is she going to jump on the guest? Right? So it's preventative control. However, it does not teach her to not jump on the guest.
Right.
Because as soon as you release her, what may happen?
She'll jump.
Yeah, because she's excited still, right?
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. Remember that. So there's behavior and then there's obedience. Right now we're working on obedience. So you'll see a lot of trainers talking about practicing this to help teach the dog how to be calm. Okay? I disagree with that because I can get a dog to be calm and not have him under any command. Okay? And the way I do that is by applying rules. You can't do that, can't do that, can't do that, definitely can't do that. So as I remove all these options for the dog goes, all right, well, if I can't do any of this stuff, I'm supposed to be calm. Okay, that's how we actually create calmness. So like kids go to school, they're loud, they're doing their kid thing, then the bell rings. What happens?
They leave.
Oh, the first bell, the morning bell.
They go back to class.
They go to class, right? You gotta get to class, sit down, listen, right? Because bell means now class is in session,
Okay.
rules are applied. Because if you don't listen, maybe go to detention, maybe go to the principal's office, right? Now there's a threat of consequence if you misbehave.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the bell rings end of day, that's a signal of like you're off the clock. Then chaos comes back,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for dogs, just like with humans, laws are ever present. They don't disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with these guys, okay? So I'm just letting you know the difference because I don't want you to think that the obedience is really what's fixing the problem, okay? It's a part of the solution.
The system.
Correct. So here, when it comes to the stay component, you can practice as long as you want. There's no real limit to this, okay? You could literally go home right now and do 2 hours, okay? Now, people are like, oh, but Jesse, I feel bad for the dog. I'm like, well, that's actually part of the problem,
Right.
right? Because they feel bad of like keeping the dog still for so long, but it's good, right? It's like you're not
She
always
needs
going to
it.
be free, right?
Yeah.
So here, this is what we would call a mental exercise. So dogs have a learning capacity of a 3 to 4 year old child. So like growing up, I went to church, and I remember going to church, my mom going like, you have to behave yourself, you can't be loud, you can't be blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be fidgeting because I'm like bored, and I'm just sitting there in my chair, right? And it was taxing mentally as a kid to try to keep myself still for that long. Same thing for dogs, okay? This is what we call a mental exercise. So earlier when you asked about like the fidgeting and stuff, and I said it's because the brain wants to move, but she can't because she's learning the concept of pressure if she steps off. So now she goes into conflict, right? Now she's actually holding still, we're getting a bit of shaking. It could be a couple of things. One, there's a little bit of a draft coming from this window. Or two, because we're putting pressure on her to get her to stay here, the shaking is a means of letting go of stress, okay? So dogs have panting, shaking is one of them, salivating, like you'll see. It looks bad, but it's part of the process, okay? This isn't bad, like this is, on a scale of 1 to 10, like a 2 to 3, okay? I get dogs that are like eyes bulging and the mouth open, just salivating, because they've never been put under stress, which is like an emotionally weaker dog. But eventually, as we keep exposing them, you see them toughen up, and then they're like perfectly fine, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because dogs toughen up their puppies by nipping and biting at them. And then when people get their puppies, they're obviously not doing any kind of physical with them, so then they're weak, right? And then later on, when they develop behavior issues and we're trying to apply these consequences now, nip and bite at them like they were supposed to be,
Right.
then we start to see all this stuff happen because it's coming later. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Questions about this so far?
No.
So when it comes to practicing this for a period of time, for the first week, we always start really close. If you're going to sit down and watch TV for a while, if you're going to work from home or answer emails or eat lunch or dinner, anytime you're just going to be stationary for a bit, you can practice this, right? Oh, I want to pop on Netflix and just like marathon show for a couple hours. Grab the dog bed, pop it down next to the couch, get her set up, leash and everything, go to bed, tap tap, she goes, and I just watch TV for a bit. An hour goes by, she tries to sneak off, don't say anything, tap tap, right? She can't go anywhere because you got the leash, or you can step on it even. She goes back, go back to watching TV. 20 minutes later, she tries again, tap, she hops back, go back to watching TV, right? So it's minimal effort. You just need to be still for a period, okay? It's like earlier today I did the same command with another client, and as I was talking to him about 10 minutes in, the dog just tried to jump off. And we corrected him, dog came back, and we kept talking. And I said, that's exactly why we do this, okay? Because at some point, she's gonna go, am I done? And try to go. And you're like, nope, you have to stay there until I tell you break, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if you did go home and do 2 hours, we just expect mistakes to happen, right? And then we grow this control. So we always start close, and then gradually you can move her away to where she could be across the room, and then you're over here, and you can get up and vacuum and sweep and mop and, you know, do work and work out. Have someone come in and she's just like right there, okay? But we have to start close, because I've had people jump from 1 to 10, and they'll put the dog over there, and they'll be over here, and then they complain because they're constantly walking the dog back to the area. And they go, yeah, I'm like, that's why we start here first, because it's easy to correct, because I don't have to do anything. And then we build up to the dog being at a distance of us.
Got
Okay? Questions?
it. No. Or do you have anything?
No.
Okay.
When it comes to applying this, think what would be applicable to you. Okay? If you're like, yeah, you know, we would like to take her out to a restaurant or something, right, for an hour and a half for a brunch or whatever, is if you're practicing in the home, you want to practice an hour or so more. Okay, so if I know at max I would need her to sit still for an hour and a half. In the home, I want to do 2 to 2.5 hours.
More stimuli outside?
Right, exactly. If you're at a restaurant, you have the waiter, the waitress,
Yeah.
dogs, people walking by, maybe people talking to her, right, food, all that stuff. So to make it more challenging, we go for a longer period of time, because within the home you're not going to have as much stimuli.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is not every day. You can do 30 minutes tonight, you can do an hour tomorrow, 15 minutes the next day, 2 hours the next day. But definitely, if you know you want to be up there in terms of length of time, at least 2 to 3 times a week, I would say you want to practice a longer, an extended time of a go to bed command.
Yeah.
Okay, definitely something that you want to practice regularly. I think because this is so simple, people tend to blow it off. They're like, well, I can practice whenever, because Jessica can practice when I watch TV, isn't that right? And then fast forward a few months and they forgot about it. Then like, hey, it's spring, let's go to the restaurant and take our dog. And oh, we'll use plates because Jesse taught it to us, but they've not practiced it. And then it's not good, because obviously there's so much more stuff, plus the dog hadn't been practicing anything on a regular basis, so it's not fun, because now you're spending more time correcting your dog than you are enjoying your meal.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you're not being mean. Dogs sleep 16 to 20 hours a day. You're just picking where she's going to do it for a part of that day. Okay? Questions about that?
No, I don't think so.
You want to give it a go?
Sure.
Just going to swap hammers.
If I'm right-handed, it doesn't matter which hand I put the leash in.
No, you're fine.
I think I'm gonna do it in my right hand.
Yeah, I was going with the thumb. Yep. And then leash with the pointer finger. Okay. And you're going to take your fingers and come around it. Perfect. Just like that. Okay. So we're going to start first. Go ahead and just say break and then move back.
Break.
Okay. And then you're going to bring her forward. You're going to stop about, we'll do about 3 squares back here. Away from the mat. And hold right there. Now relax. Pull back a little bit. Relax. Right. So here, this is okay. As long as she's not moving towards the bed. When you put tension on her like that, you always want to relax, because a lot of times the dog is only staying back because you're holding them back. Right. So by easing up that pressure, you're giving her the opportunity to go back to the bed if she wanted. Okay. Go ahead and cue go to bed.
Go to bed.
And you're gonna press the bumpy button. Yep. Good. So you see how right when you hit that tap, she just turned and made her way to the bed? That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, now, because I saw the active choice of, hey, I'm gonna go here, we don't need to continue tapping during the, as she's on the way there. In the beginning we had to, because we had to work her through making
Teaching.
other decisions, right? And then teach her, hey, the faster you get here, the faster this disappears. So now we're getting consistent response. Now, if you tell her go to bed and you tap her and she goes and then stops halfway,
Then-
you wouldn't repeat it. You would tap again to get her to complete the command.
So you
Okay?
say it once.
Yes, always once. Break.
Break.
Back. Pull, pull, pull. Good. Go ahead and move forward a little bit. Right there, wait a moment. Go to bed.
Go to bed.
Tip. Right there. And curl. And break.
Break.
So,
She made a vomit sound.
Oh.
She's very naughty.
go to bed.
Go to bed.
Right. What we're gonna try on this next one is I'm gonna have you try from distance again. I'm gonna have you stay still and tap, okay? And you can still apply pressure if needed, but we're gonna see if she will go from a further distance with minimal help physically. Okay, break.
Break. So stand about here.
Yep.
And then tell her go to bed, and then like let her.
Yeah, do the tap, see what she does without the leash, and then keep tapping if needed, and apply the leash if we see she needs more guidance.
Okay. Go to bed.
That's fine. There we go. Excellent. Break.
Break.
Good. Let's try it from a different angle.
Okay.
Yep.
Go to bed.
Good. Tap. Tap. Right. Good. So you see right there, she's tapping like to like 180. So she's getting a very good concept of tap needs to go to the spot. Okay, one more.
Break.
Choke up a little bit.
Break.
There you go. Good.
Go to bed.
Good. Good. We'll try just a couple more.
Break. She gave a little whimper. Try over. Go to bed.
Right? That was a good one.
Yeah, I didn't even do it there.
Yeah. And she moved very quickly, so.
Yeah, that's why I was like, she kind of gave a quick effort. Break.
Good.
Go to bed.
Excellent. Good. Questions?
No.
I'm trying to think here.
Quick
So-
question, actually. When you were talking about, this would be a good, thing to, utilize when people are coming into the house and you want that preventative stuff. This is kind of a side question, but with the territorial stuff of when she gets low or barking or anything like that, is it always territorial? Like, I find that sometimes if I'm in the kitchen and someone I know, like a family member walks in and I know they're coming in, but I don't go up to the door, she gets very, usually she doesn't know them, she like rushes, she barks, she gets very like down low, and people sometimes are a little nervous of her, but sometimes when I go to the door and I greet someone, it's a little bit less so. Do you think it's?
Yeah, because, so I have a client right now, their dog bit someone. And the first thing I asked was, because the dog had never bitten anyone. Okay, and it had dogs for like, I don't know, 45 years, 4 to 5, not 45.
Yeah.
And first thing I asked was, did the person walk in unannounced? They said yes.
Yeah.
Right, and I was like, yeah, I'm like, because oh, it's my cousin, right? But to the dog, it's out of the norm, right? That whoever's coming into that door, if it's not whoever resides within the home, the dog perceives as threat. Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
And then when you go into it, it's more kind of addressed in a sense because you're present, so you're like aware.
Yeah.
And this sounds dumb, but dogs don't know that when you open the door for someone, it's because you're letting them in. They don't understand that concept. It's just like, who's letting the threat in? Like, why are you letting the threat in?
Yeah.
Right? So it's normal. What I would suggest for this week, or actually it's just in general, I always dissuade people from letting people walk in unannounced. Okay? Because you can go years without an issue until the one day you don't. Okay, I've come across it a few times in 10 years of training, and it's always best to prevent something from happening, and it's a very easy solution. Just don't let anybody come in unannounced, right? And also it allows you to do this. Okay, so like let's say you're gonna have a guest come over at 5:30, 5 o'clock. She's already set up. She's already here on her dog bed or whatever. And probably easiest in the beginning to do a little tag team, where someone's hanging back, holding her with a relaxed leash, not a taut leash. Okay, and let's say they knock and they come in and she hops off and she's barking, and you tap her at 23 and she keeps barking, right? And you keep tapping. What do you think that means?
That it's not high enough to get a
Correct.
response.
We go up, right? So I'm just holding the leash, and I have my 3 tap rule or 3 correction rule. So let's say she goes tap, tap. We actually did this to find a number, right? Tap, 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 no response, bump it. Tap, 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 no response, bump it. And don't repeat the command. Once you hit the appropriate number, and it could be 48, you'll see her go boop, because 48 finally overrode the nervousness territorial behavior and kicked in, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be on here.
Yeah.
Okay, now she's probably going to be a little grumbly. Okay, I would ignore that in the beginning. Okay, I would focus more on finding the number or the level to get her to go back to the bed. I would say go in jumps of 5, right? So 23 to 28 to 35 to 40. It doesn't have to be exact, but I would go in those increments
Okay.
to find her level. And then as you repeat that, if you always go from 23 to 48, for example, and that's when she's perfect, what does that tell us?
That might be her number.
When people come over, that is
Yeah.
correct. So then the next time I have a guest come over, I'm already at 48. Because for her, it'll be worthwhile to be grumbly and barky until you hit 48. Okay, and we want to be able to dissuade her from the get-go. And what we should start to see is that you'll have to address her less because you're already starting at that number, right? But let's say if there's no guests around, 23 is the number. Okay, so I'm not saying these are set numbers, these are just references. Okay, when you do work with her, you're going to reset your number every time to 10.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because you're doing research this week. So typically you'd be doing this outside, right? You go on a walk, and at the beginning of your walk, you would find your working level first, and then you would record whatever you end on, whenever the dog is perfect. And then the client will come back and they'll say, like, yeah, Jesse, every walk ended at 42. So I was like, okay, what does that tell us? The dog's number is 42. I'm like, great, now you just start your walks at 42, right? But we have to get consistent. If I walk the dog 3 times a day, every day, and I start from 10 to end at 42, that tells me that's the dog's number, right, for the most part. And then I have to figure out the other contexts, okay? So this week's stuff, pretty easy, you can practice inside. Please do practice. In terms of reactivity stuff, keep run is prong. If you want to add some extra security, you can clip with a carabiner your prong where the chain is to like her collar there, because prongs can't come undone, and you have an alligator style one and they're more likely to come undone. Okay, so the carabiner can help secure it to the collar, so if it does unsnap, we're not worried about that.
I think I have one of those. Did I give you that?
No.
It connects to both, and then if one snaps off, you're still.
Yeah, so definitely recommend that. I actually had a dog,
Great.
happened yesterday and today, the collar came off.
Oh, it's come off of her before.
Yeah, if it's not perfect, like say she goes to the bathroom
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to pick it up and she starts moving around all crazy, I'll stop doing that and just always make sure this thing is like centered perfectly on the back of her head.
Okay.
Because like anytime my old he was still kicking, if it was like this and like it would get unkinked like that all the time.
Sure.
I try to just keep it like perfect all the time. And even if she's moving around, like if I see it's like backwards or something, I'll fix it.
Adjust it, yeah.
Would you recommend the carabiner just for lack of security?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's what I told the other owner, because the dog comes for daycare. And twice it came off, but luckily it came off in the facility and not like out when I was walking the dog,
Yeah.
So the prong collars are known for coming undone. It's rare if it's in response to a correction, because that's typically when they come undone. But with the alligator clip, because it is that kind of snap like this, they're more likely to. So I would just take a carabiner, clip it through maybe the dead ring, and then just clip it to like the big ring on your flat collar there.
Okay.
And in case something ever happens, like you're secure. Okay, because the last thing you need is a dog getting off leash. Once we get to that point with the e-collar, you know, you wouldn't have to worry so much because you're still going to have control. And then we'll just take it from there.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So for now, just practice indoors.
Correct, yeah. And then for the reactivity stuff, if you see a dog approaching, you can step aside. I would keep her on that prong because that's going to give you, because I think when I met you guys, I was on the gentle leader.
Yeah, we've used both, yeah.
Yeah. So what you would do is just choke up on that leash like I showed you with that locking system. And then whenever she becomes reactive, just pull straight up. Okay, not back, not up and back, just straight up. Okay? Up de-escalates, back and up and back escalate. Okay?
Okay.
And then it should either contain her or help her settle. It's not an answer, it's just in the meantime until we can actually formally start the healing process with the e-collar.
Okay.
Okay? Awesome. It was nice seeing you guys again.
Yeah, nice to see you again.
If you have any questions, just shoot me an email
Great.
at the email you got the videos from. Okay?
Got it.
Got those bat ears.